She tried to pull her hand back, or at least she meant to, but Luca stepped closer. Not forceful, just present, steady, unshaken, his shadow folded over hers, his breath warming the cool night air. He didn't squeeze her wrist, he didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to, because when she finally met his eyes, the truth was already there. Quiet. Undeniable. Dangerous. He wasn't warning her, he was claiming her, and the way he looked at her, soft but edged with something darker, stirred emotions she wasn't prepared to face. When he finally let her go, his touch lingered, not on her skin, but somewhere deeper. Her pulse didn't calm, it raced. Because in that moment she knew, the real danger wasn't the man standing in front of her. It was what her heart was starting to do because of him. Welcome to Afro-Korean Boss Empire. We're so glad you're still with us. Stay tuned to see where this incredible story takes us next. Love what you're watching? Subscribe now for more captivating stories and be the first to know when we post new content. Let's build this empire together. Nia didn't mean to stay out this late, but Savannah had a way of holding people longer than they intended. Warm air, slow breezes, and streets lined with magnolia trees glowing beneath old lanterns. Beauty was a trap here, and tonight it caught her. She stepped through the wrought-iron gate of Luca Moreau's estate, heels tapping softly against the stones as she made her way across the courtyard. The house behind her was silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that made a person second-guess every breath they took. She told herself she was only going for a walk, only clearing her head, only doing what any sane woman would do when married to a man she barely understood. But Luca was standing there long before she reached the exit. He leaned against one of the pillars, half his face lost in shadow, the other washed in the amber glow of the courtyard light. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He didn't even blink. Nia's steps slowed. She didn't know what unnerved her more, the way he always seemed to appear from nowhere, or the way her heartbeat always found a reason to quicken when he did. "You're leaving the house at midnight now?" Luca's voice cut through the quiet calm, but carrying weight. "I needed air," she said, keeping her chin lifted. "Didn't know I required permission for that." He pushed off the pillar with the kind of controlled grace only a man raised around danger could possess. His shoes made no sound on the stones. None. When he reached her, he lifted a hand not to grab her, but to gently stop her forward motion. His fingers brushed her wrist, barely, light as his breath. Nia tried to pull back. She couldn't. Not because he held her, but because something in his eyes pinned her in place. Nia. Her name came out low, measured, deliberate. "You think I don't notice when you disappear?" he asked. "You think I don't feel it? When my wife slips into the night like she doesn't belong here?" Emotion flickered across his face, so fast she almost missed it. Loneliness, fear, possessiveness? She wasn't sure. With Luca Moreau, nothing was ever simple. "I don't belong here," she said softly. "You know that." He stepped closer, close enough for her to smell the faint cedar and smoke on his suit, close enough for her to feel the heat radiating off him like a heartbeat. "After I'm done with you," he murmured, "you won't want other men." Her breath caught. The words weren't shouted. They weren't meant to scare her. If anything, they sounded like a truth he hated admitting out loud. "Luca," she whispered, but he didn't move back, didn't give her space, didn't give her a chance to stabilize her heartbeat. "Look at me." His voice stayed soft, too soft. When she finally met his gaze, she saw something there she hadn't seen before. Not anger, not coldness, something more dangerous. Emotion. "Nia," he said again, voice lower now, "you don't walk away at night, not in this house, not from me." Her pulse stumbled. She hated it, hated him for knowing it, hated herself for feeling anything at all. She forced herself to step back, even though her body didn't want to. This marriage, this arrangement," she said, "it's not real." The flicker in his eyes darkened. A storm rolling in behind calm waters. You keep saying that. His voice dropped even lower. But you're wrong. He reached out as if to touch her cheek, then stopped himself, fingers curling back at the last second. Restraint. Real restraint. The kind that meant he had far more feelings than he ever admitted. You're tired, Luca said finally. Go inside. Get some sleep. She didn't move. Neither did he. For a moment, the world felt smaller, just the two of them standing under the magnolia trees, surrounded by petals, shadows, and a truth neither of them wanted to name. He slowly stepped aside, giving her room to pass. But as she walked by, she felt his gaze on her back, hot, heavy, unreadable. "Good night, Nia," he said quietly. She should have kept walking, but she turned, just once, and saw him still staring at her like he was trying to memorize her face. Something twisted in her chest, something dangerous, and she knew, as surely as she knew her own name. This marriage was changing, and whatever happened next, she wouldn't see it coming. Nia barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Luca standing under the magnolia trees, half in shadow, half in the light, speaking words he had no right to say. "After I'm done with you, you won't want other men." She tried ignoring it. She tried pretending she didn't care. But the truth rolled through her mind like a slow storm that refused to pass. By morning, she was still restless. When she stepped into the kitchen, the smell of roasted herbs and butter hit her first. Then she noticed the staff working double time, chopping, basting, arranging trays of dishes she didn't recognize. She blinked in confusion. "This looks like a holiday," she murmured. "It is," a housemaid said, not looking up. "Mr. Moreau's Thanksgiving dinner, very private, very important." Thanksgiving. Nia had forgotten what week it was. She hadn't been planning to stay here long enough to care about holidays. "Important to who?" she asked. "To everyone who matters in this city," the maid replied, then lowered her voice. "And to everyone who fears him." Before Nia could respond, a deeper voice came from behind her. "To everyone who respects me," Luca corrected, walking in. She stiffened. He was dressed in a crisp black shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing veins and the faintest outline of scars, evidence of the kind of life he never talked about. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just stepped out of the shower. "Good morning," he said softly. She hated that those two words affected her more than they should. "Morning," she replied, turning away to pour water she didn't actually want. He stepped beside her, close but not touching. "I'm hosting Thanksgiving dinner," he said, as if that weren't obvious. "My family, my allies, the people who need to see you." She froze. "See me?" "Yes." His voice stayed even. "You're the Moreau wife. They need to know it, understand it, accept it." Nia swallowed slowly. "So this is political." "It always is." "And what if I don't want to play that role?" Luca looked at her then, really looked at her. "You already are." Her breath caught for reasons she didn't want to explore. He continued, "You'll sit beside me at the head of the table. You'll speak if spoken to. You'll stay close." "Close?" she echoed, heart skipping. His jaw tightened. "Tonight's guests have a way of testing boundaries. I won't let anyone cross yours." There was something in his tone, something protective, almost tender, that made her chest warm against her will. She set down the glass a little harder than intended. "I never agreed to be paraded like a trophy." He didn't flinch. "Then don't be a trophy," he said. "Be my equal." She wasn't expecting that. Not from him. Not in this house. He stepped closer, close enough that she felt the heat of him along her arm. "Nia, I don't want you to play pretend tonight." His voice deepened. "I want you to stand next to me because you choose to." She stared at him, unsure whether to be flattered or afraid. Before she could speak, the doorbell rang in the distance, deep, heavy chimes echoing through the mansion. His eyes flickered. They're early?" He didn't sound pleased. "Who?" she asked quietly. "My uncle," Luca said, "and if he's early, it means something's wrong." The air changed. Even the kitchen staff paused, as if they sensed the shift. Luca moved toward the main hall, then paused, turning back to her. "Stay close to me tonight," he said again. "This dinner will not be peaceful." A shiver slipped down Nia's spine. "What do you mean?" she asked. His expression darkened, controlled, but troubled in a way she hadn't seen before. "My uncle doesn't accept our marriage." He let the words hang. "And he's not the only one." Nia's heartbeat stumbled. He took another step toward her, dropping his voice to a near whisper. "If you feel uncomfortable, if anyone looks at you wrong, touches you wrong." His eyes sharpened. "You tell me. Immediately." The intensity in his tone wasn't arrogance. It wasn't dominance. It was something far more dangerous: devotion. Before she could respond, heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Luca's gaze shifted toward the sound, shoulders tensing. "Stay here," he murmured. But Nia didn't. Something about the look in his eyes, part warning, part fear, made her follow him, not because she trusted him, but because she didn't trust the people walking through his doors. The Thanksgiving dinner was just beginning, and she already knew it would not end quietly. The front door opened with a slow, heavy groan, the kind that made Nia's chest tighten without reason. Luca's back straightened. Every muscle in his shoulders pulled taut, as though bracing for something inevitable and unwelcome. A man stepped inside, mid-60s, silver hair slicked back, sharp features, dark suit pressed to perfection. His presence filled the foyer the same way a storm fills the sky. Silent, but undeniable. His eyes swept the hall, landed on Luca, and froze. Luca. His voice was smooth but thick with something far more complex than age. "Uncle Romero," Luca replied, expression unreadable. But Nia wasn't looking at Luca, she was looking at Romero. And the way his gaze flickered when it reached her. It wasn't curiosity, it wasn't surprise, it was recognition, a recognition he had no business having. Because she had never met this man. Romero smiled, but it wasn't warm. "So," he said slowly, "this must be the wife." Nia's stomach tightened. Something about his tone felt heavy. Heavy enough to press against her ribs. She nodded politely. "Nia Moreau." Romero tilted his head slightly, studying her with quiet interest. "Of course you are." Nia frowned. "Of course?" Before she could question it, Luca stepped between them, blocking Romero's view. "You're early," Luca said. Romero's eyes narrowed. "I needed to speak with you. Alone." "Later," Luca replied sharply. Romero didn't argue. He didn't need to. The tension between the two men was thick enough to slow the air. Romero turned away, walking deeper into the mansion without being told where to go, as though he already knew the layout. As though he belonged here more than Nia ever had. The moment he disappeared around the corner, Luca exhaled the breath he'd been holding. "That man," Nia began softly. Luca didn't let her finish. "You stay away from him tonight." His tone wasn't threatening. It was protective, urgent. "What did he mean?" she asked carefully, when he said, "Of course you are." Luca's jaw clenched. "Tread carefully, Nia." "Why?" "Because Romero doesn't do anything without a reason." Before she could press further, footsteps echoed down the staircase. More guests arriving, voices, movement. The Thanksgiving dinner was officially beginning. Luca offered his arm. She hesitated, not out of fear, but because of the way he looked at her. Like he wanted her close, like he needed her close. She finally slipped her hand into his. His shoulders relaxed, even if only by an inch. The dining room was glowing with soft candlelight. Guests, businessmen, older women dressed in silk, younger men in tailored suits, turned to stare. Some judged, some whispered. Some lifted glasses in quiet acknowledgement, but every single one of them knew who Luca Moreau was, and they knew who she now had to be, his wife, his equal. His weakness. Nia sat beside him at the head of the long table. Romero sat 3 seats down. Too close. Far too close. Throughout dinner, Nia could feel Romero watching her, not constantly, but often enough that her skin prickled. Then came the plot twist. A woman, tall, elegant, early 30s, walked in late and took a seat near Romero. The room shifted, not loudly, not noticeably, but the energy changed. Luca stiffened beside Nia. Romero's smile finally turned genuine. Nia leaned slightly closer to Luca, whispering, "Who is she?" Luca didn't look at her. Someone who shouldn't be here. Romero raised his glass toward Luca with a smirk. "To family," he said. Luca didn't return the toast. The woman's eyes flicked to Nia. Her lips curled into the faintest smile, one Nia didn't like. Romero added, "And to the truth's families hide." Some guests looked up, confused. Others looked away, pretending not to understand. Luca set his fork down deliberately. His voice stayed calm. "Not tonight, Romero." Romero chuckled. "But when better than Thanksgiving, nephew?" Nia felt a chill run through her spine. Romero wasn't just stirring trouble. He was preparing to drop something heavy. Nia whispered, "Luca, what is he talking about?" He didn't answer, not because he didn't hear her, but because his jaw was locked in a way that meant he did know. And that terrified her more than not knowing at all. Romero leaned back, fingers tapping the table lightly. "Oh, don't worry, Nia," he said casually. "You'll find out soon enough. After all—" He paused, eyes gleaming with something uncomfortably close to triumph. "Your place in this family is relevant." Nia's heart dropped. Relevant to what? But before she could ask, Romero's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and for the first time all evening his expression changed. He stood abruptly. "So, it begins." Luca rose halfway from his chair. "Romero." "Later," Romero said with a smirk, walking out. "You'll see soon enough." Nia looked at Luca. "Luca, what's going on?" He swallowed. The flicker in his eyes wasn't anger this time. It was fear, not for himself, for her. "Nia," he whispered, "whatever happens next, stay close to me." And before she could respond, a scream echoed from somewhere inside the mansion. The dinner was no longer the problem. Something much worse had just begun. The scream tore through the mansion like a knife, sharp, cold, and wrong enough to freeze the entire dining room. Nia pushed her chair back instinctively. Guests started whispering. Some stood, others clutched their drinks, eyes wide. But Luca moved before anyone else. He stepped around the table with controlled urgency, every line of his body coiled and alert. Nia followed him without needing to be told. Her heart pounded, but something in his eyes, fear mixed with protectiveness, anchored her more than it frightened her. The scream had come from the far west corridor, a hallway Nia had never seen before, a hallway servants avoided, a hallway Luca always kept locked. "Stay behind me," he murmured as they walked, his hand brushing the small of her back just long enough to guide her. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance a door slammed. Guests hovered near the dining room entrance, whispering frantically, "Was that one of the staff? Is someone hurt? This is why we don't come here. Be quiet, he'll hear you." But Luca didn't look back. He moved like a man who already feared the answer waiting for him. When they reached the west corridor, Nia noticed something strange. The double doors, usually shut, locked, guarded, were standing wide open, as if someone had been dragged through them, or fled. Nia's stomach tightened. "Luca," she whispered, "what's in this part of the house?" He didn't answer, which scared her far more than a spoken truth. They stepped inside. The corridor was darker than the rest of the mansion, lined with old portraits, stern men with colder eyes, and women with secrets painted into their smiles. The air felt heavier here, older, as though time didn't move the same way. Another scream, this one muffled, echoed deeper inside. Luca took off running. Nia chased after him. He reached a door at the end of the hall, an old wooden one with iron hinges, and threw it open. A maid was inside, collapsed on the floor, shaking violently. Tears streamed down her face as she pointed toward the far corner of the dim room. He was here," she stammered. He said it's time." Luca crouched beside her, voice calm but urgent. Who was here?" The maid's jaw trembled. Her eyes flicked up to Nia, widened, and she crossed herself in fear. Him. Luca stiffened. Romero? She shook her head violently. No, someone else. Someone older. Nia's breath hitched. Older than Romero? Before Luca could press her again, he spotted something on the floor near the corner, a folded piece of thick cream-colored paper. A letter. He picked it up. His jaw tightened with every second his eyes scanned the message. His chest rose and fell, slowly. Too slowly. "Luca?" Nia whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he closed the letter, slipped it into his jacket, and stood with a controlled inhale. "We're leaving this room," he said quietly. "Wait, what did it say?" Nia asked. Luca looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something break through his composure, a hint of dread. "Not here," he murmured. "Not yet." He helped the maid up, guiding her to the hall where other staff rushed to take her away. Nia stepped closer. "Luca, what's happening? What did that letter say? And why did she look at me like that?" His silence stretched too long. Then he exhaled, pressing a hand to his temple. "There are things about my family I hoped you'd never have to face," he said quietly. "Things I wanted to keep away from you." "But I'm already in it," she said softly. "Aren't I?" His eyes softened, an emotion she couldn't name flickering there. "Yes," he admitted, "you are." Another voice drifted from behind them, smooth, calm, too calm. "You should tell her, Luca." They turned. Romero stood at the entrance of the corridor, hands in his pockets, eyes glinting with the satisfaction of someone who knew the ending to a story no one else had been told. "What did you do?" Luca demanded. Romero shrugged lightly. "Nothing at all. Tonight is simply the beginning." Nia stepped back unconsciously. Romero smiled at her, a slow, almost pitying smile. "You, dear Nia," he said, "have no idea how central you are to all of this." Nia's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. Romero's eyes darkened with meaning. "Ask your husband," he said. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving behind a corridor heavy with secrets and a silence thick enough to suffocate. Nia looked at Luca. "Luca, what is he talking about?" He closed his eyes for a moment, jaw flexing. Then he opened them again, voice low. "There's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you from the beginning." But before he could speak, the lights went out, and the mansion was swallowed in darkness. The lights died with a sharp pop. Then everything plunged into darkness. Gasps echoed through the mansion. Guests whispered. Someone knocked over a glass. It shattered on the floor. But Nia didn't move. Luca's hand found hers instantly, firm, steady, unshakably warm. "Stay with me," he murmured, voice low in the pitch-black hall. She'd never been so aware of his presence, not his size or strength, but the certainty in his touch. Even blind, he navigated the shadows like he'd lived in them his whole life. A faint blue glow lit his face, the emergency light from his watch. "Nia." His fingers tightened around hers. "You're safe. I won't let anything touch you." It wasn't his usual calm control. This was raw, intentional, protective in a way that made her breath catch. What's happening?" she whispered. He didn't answer immediately, because footsteps echoed far down the hall, soft, measured, coming closer. Luca's entire body shifted, shoulders squared, stance angled slightly in front of her, blocking any possible path toward her. More footsteps followed, some lighter, hurried, staff or guests, others heavy, deliberate. Romero's voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Well now, isn't this convenient?" Nia felt Luca stiffen. "Where are the generators?" Luca demanded. "Offline," Romero replied casually. "For the first time in years. Curious, isn't it?" "Enough games," Luca growled. "Stop using the family as a stage." Romero's laugh echoed. "You think I turned off the power? No, Luca. This is someone else's move." Someone else. The word dissolved into the darkness like smoke. Someone older. Someone the maid recognized. Someone connected to the letter. Nia swallowed hard. "Luca, what secret were you trying to tell me?" The question hung between them. She could feel his hesitation, not fear of her reaction, but fear of the truth itself. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "It wasn't an accident that you were chosen to marry into this family." Her heart lurched. "Chosen by who?" "That's what I never learned," he whispered. "But someone far above Romero, wanted you here." Nia's pulse thudded in her ears. "Why me?" she whispered. "I don't know," Luca said, "but I intend to find out, and when I do I'll—" A loud bang echoed from upstairs. Something, maybe furniture, crashed to the floor. Guests screamed. Another crash, then footsteps, fast, heavy, running across the second floor. The mansion was waking up to something none of them had been prepared for. "Luca," Nia breathed. He turned toward her fully, free hand lifting to cup the side of her face in the dark. "I won't let anything separate us," he said softly. So softly she wondered if he realized what he was admitting. Not tonight, not ever. For a moment, everything around them fell away. Then, a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness. One of Luca's security men rushed down the hall. "Sir!" He stopped abruptly when he saw Nia, then lowered his voice. "Sir, it's upstairs. Someone broke into the West Wing study." Luca's grip tightened on Nia's hand. "Who?" he demanded. The guard hesitated. "We don't know, but they left something behind." Romero's voice drifted from the shadows. "Spoiler alert, nephew. I think we all know who." Luca ignored him. "Nia," he said quietly, bending closer so she could see the steel in his eyes, even in the dim glow. "I need you to come with me. I'm not leaving you alone in this house." She nodded without hesitation. They moved through the halls, Luca leading, the guard behind, Romero trailing like a shadow that refused to be shaken. The staircase creaked under their steps. The second floor was colder, as though the blackout had drained the warmth from the walls themselves. When they reached the West Wing study, the door was open. Not broken. Open. Inside, books lay scattered, desk drawers pulled out, a chair knocked over. But the most chilling thing wasn't the mess. It was the single candle burning on the desk, the only source of light in the room. A candle no one in the Moreau house used anymore. A candle placed with intention. Romero stepped past them, eyes narrowing as he approached the desk. "There," he said. Nia saw it then, a torn photograph, old, yellowed, edges cracked, and in the center, a young woman who looked disturbingly familiar. Same eyes, same cheekbones, same quiet strength. Nia's breath caught. It wasn't her, but it could have been her reflection decades ago. Luca picked up the photo gently, as though it might crumble in his hands. "This was my mother," he said quietly. Nia's heart flipped. Romero smirked faintly. "And that dear niece-in-law is why you should be afraid." "Why?" Nia whispered. "What does she have to do with me?" Romero leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dark, poisoned whisper. "Because the woman in that picture disappeared the same way you arrived." And before Nia could ask what he meant, something moved behind the curtain, a silhouette, watching them, listening, waiting. For a moment, no one breathed. The silhouette behind the curtain didn't move, didn't shrink back, didn't flinch. It simply stood there, watching. Nia's pulse pounded in her throat. Luca shifted in front of her instantly, shielding her with his body. His voice, low and controlled, filled the room. "Show yourself." Silence. Only the faint flicker of the candle on the desk. The guard lifted his flashlight, beam shaking slightly. Romero stepped aside, smirking as though he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Luca took a single step forward, and the curtain rippled. Someone darted past. A blur, fast, silent. Nia gasped as the figure slipped between them and the door. Brushing so close, she felt a cold draft kiss her skin. The guard lunged. Luca followed. But the intruder was gone before anyone reached the hall. Footsteps echoed once, twice, then nothing. A perfect disappearance. Luca cursed under his breath, hand tightening around the edge of the doorframe. "Who was that?" Nia whispered, voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. Romero answered instead. "Someone who knows exactly where he's going." Luca rounded on him. "Did you bring him here?" Romero raised both hands lazily. "I didn't bring anyone, but I knew someone would come. I told you, tonight is the beginning." Luca's jaw flexed, muscles tense with a dangerous, quiet fury. Nia stepped closer, trying to understand the photo still lying on the desk. The woman who looked like her, Luca's mother, a woman who disappeared. "Why would anyone break into this room?" she asked. Luca didn't look at her. His focus stayed fixed on the hallway where the intruder had vanished. "This room belonged to my father," he said. "He kept things here, secrets, records." "About what?" Nia pressed. He hesitated, just long enough to tell her the truth was heavier than the hall itself. "About bloodlines," he said finally. "About our family. Who belongs, who doesn't." Nia swallowed. "And me?" He turned to her slowly, too slowly. "You weren't supposed to see that photo," he said quietly. "Not yet. Not like this." The words chilled her. Romero chuckled darkly. "Oh, let her see it, Luca. She deserves to know that the woman in that picture, your mother, wasn't the only one who vanished." Nia's breath caught. "What do you mean?" Romero leaned against the desk, tapping a finger on the wood. "Two women in the Moreau line disappeared, both connected to power, both connected to family conflict, and both, curiously enough," he pointed to the faded photo, "looked almost exactly like you." The room went still. Nia stared at the woman's face again. The similarities were undeniable, not identical, but haunting. "Are you suggesting I'm related to her?" Nia whispered. Luca stepped between her and Romero. "That's not what he's saying." Romero laughed. "Then what am I saying, nephew?" Luca didn't answer. Nia's mind spiraled. Why would someone marry her into this family? Why would a stranger be watching her from behind a curtain? Why would the maid react with terror when she saw her? Her voice broke into the silence. "Luca, who chose me?" He closed his eyes briefly. "I don't know," he said, "but whoever chose you isn't done." The candle suddenly flickered, hard, though no wind touched it. Romero's tone softened strangely. "Your mother," he murmured, "told your father that when the missing women returned, they'd never come alone." The guard trembled. That sounds like a threat." Romero's cold smile returned. "Oh, boo, it was." Nia felt a chill creep up her spine. She turned to Luca. "Why didn't you tell me any of this?" "Because I didn't believe it," he said quietly, "and I didn't want you tangled in it." "I'm already tangled," she whispered. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Then a soft thud echoed down the hallway, not a crash. Something placed, set. Romero turned his head slightly, listening. "Well," he murmured, "he's left us a message." Luca didn't wait. He pulled Nia with him, following the sound until they reached the balcony overlooking the foyer. There, on the marble floor below, lay an envelope, cream-colored, just like the letter from earlier. But this one had Nia's name written across the front. Not Nia Moreau, just Nia. The handwriting was old, elegant, unmistakably familiar. The same handwriting from the letter Luca found. Nia stared down, cold sinking into her bones. Luca. Her voice trembled. That's the same handwriting from earlier, isn't it? Luca didn't answer, because he recognized something else. Romero stepped closer, staring over the railing. His smirk vanished completely. Oh, well, this is unexpected. A pause. No one alive writes like that anymore. Nia looked at Luca, heart pounding. Then who wrote it? Luca's voice dropped to a whisper. I don't know. Romero did, and his answer chilled the room. Your mother. For a long moment, no one spoke. Nia stared down at the envelope resting on the marble floor below. The one bearing her name in handwriting, too old, too elegant, too impossible to belong to anyone alive. Her breath trembled. Luca didn't release her hand. If anything, his grip tightened, steadying her or steadying himself, she couldn't tell. Romero leaned on the balcony railing with a quiet, anticipatory satisfaction in his eyes. Well, he said softly, aren't you going to fetch it? Luca shot him a warning glare, then guided Nia away from the railing. We're leaving the upstairs, he said calmly, though the tension in his voice betrayed him. I'm not letting you walk into anything unprotected. She nodded, but the hollow weight in her stomach didn't ease. Down the stairs they went, Romero trailing behind, the guard flanking them. Every shadow felt too deep. Every whisper of movement felt wrong. When they reached the foyer, the envelope lay perfectly centered on the floor. Nia knelt first. Her fingers hovered inches above it, but didn't touch. Who would write my name like this? She whispered. Luca crouched beside her. No one who should be alive. The words chilled her more than the marble underneath her knees. Finally, with a steady inhale, she picked up the envelope. It was warm, warm, as if someone had been holding it just seconds before. Her pulse quickened. The seal wasn't wax, but a pressed symbol she didn't recognize. An intertwined M and A, looped like an old family crest. What is that? She asked. Romero's voice floated down lazily. The original Moreau insignia, retired before Luca was born. Luca's jaw tightened. Shut up. Romero. Romero only smiled. Nia broke the seal. Inside was a single piece of ivory paper, folded once. Her name was written at the top, only her first name, as though whoever wrote it knew her long before she became a Moreau. Her fingers shook as she unfolded it. Luca placed a hand on her back, grounding her. At the bottom of the page, written in the same ancient script, were 5 chilling words. The bloodline always returns. Nia's breath hitched. Bloodline? She whispered. She flipped the page over, hoping for more. Explanations, a signature, anything. But handwritten in faint ink at the top corner was something far worse. A year, an old year, a year long before she was born. 1993. Romero let out a slow whistle. Ah? So she's back to marking the dates. Luca snapped his head toward him. Enough, Romero shrugged. She dated her letters, even after she went missing. At least, that's what your father believed. Nia's heartbeat stumbled. Who is she? She demanded. Both men went silent. Romero looked amused. Luca looked trapped. Finally, Luca exhaled a long, steady breath. The handwriting, he said quietly. It's my mother's. Nia froze. But she's gone. She disappeared decades ago. She did, Luca murmured. And no one has seen her since. Romero tapped his cane lightly on the floor. And yet, your wife just received a fresh letter in her handwriting, delivered by someone none of us could catch. Nia felt the room tilt. This is impossible. Luca's eyes softened, a crack in his otherwise unshakable demeanor. I don't believe she's alive, he said. But someone is impersonating her. Someone knows her handwriting. Someone wants you to think she's still influencing this family. Why me? Nia whispered, voice breaking. Luca hesitated. Too long. Romero filled the silence. Because, my dear, you resemble her more closely than Luca ever noticed. Nia shook her head. No, that doesn't make sense. I'm not related to her. Yet here you stand, Romero said, baring her face, her eyes, her expressions. A stranger, chosen, selected, to marry into this family. Luca shot him a glare sharp enough to cut stone. Stop twisting this! Nia looked between them. Is he wrong? She asked. Luca closed his eyes briefly. Then, no, he admitted, voice low. Not entirely. Nia's breath caught. You said earlier someone chose me, someone above Romero, someone powerful. Yes? And that same person might be behind this letter? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Suddenly, a heavy knock echoed through the mansion, not at the front door, at the side entrance. 3 slow knocks, perfectly spaced. Romero tilted his head. Oh no, they wouldn't dare. Luca stiffened, pulling Nia behind him. Nia, he said quietly, whatever happens, do not open that door. Her pulse hammered. Who is it? She whispered. Romero's expression darkened, all amusement evaporating. Someone who should not be alive. Luca's voice dropped to a whisper, almost broken. My mother. And the knocking came again, this time louder, more purposeful, as if the person on the other side already knew she would eventually open it. The third knock wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was deliberate. A message, a warning, a promise. Nia clutched the letter closer to her chest as Luca stepped in front of her, shoulders squared, body braced, like he expected the door to explode inward at any second. The guard moved to Luca's side. Romero stayed back, leaning on his cane, eyes narrowed not with amusement now, but calculation. The knocking came again. 3 more taps, soft, even, chilling. Luca, Nia whispered, tell me who you think is behind that door. He didn't look at her. His eyes remained fixed forward. I don't know anymore, he said quietly. But I know one thing. If it is my mother, she's not the woman I remember. Romero exhaled through his nose, stepping forward just enough for the candlelight to catch his expression. Open the door, he said. No, Luca shot back. Then you risk them opening it from the other side. A cold ripple passed down Nia's spine. The guard reached for the handle. Don't, Luca said sharply. But the guard froze, his hand hovering an inch from the metal. Silence stretched, thick, electric. Then, a soft scrape. Something slid beneath the door, a folded piece of parchment, old, yellowed. Edges curled from time. Romero leaned down first, picking it up with 2 fingers as if it might burn him. Well, he murmured, she does enjoy her theatrics. Nia swallowed. What does it say? Romero handed it to Luca. But Luca didn't unfold it. Instead, he studied the paper's seal, a pressed insignia identical to the one on Nia's letter. Ancient, intertwined, unmistakable. Same crest, Luca muttered. Nia felt her heartbeat in her throat. What does that mean? Luca finally broke the seal and opened the parchment. Only 3 words were written inside, 3 words that shouldn't have belonged together, 3 words written in the same haunting, looping handwriting, Return to blood. Nia stared at the message. Return to blood? To whose blood? She whispered. Luca's jaw tightened. My family has a rule, a very old one, only used in times of betrayal. Romero added, or resurrection. Nia's breath hitched. What does it mean? It means, Luca said quietly, someone wants the Moreau line corrected, repaired, or broken. Romero's eyes flicked to Nia with unsettling interest. And she is the one they're calling back. What? Nia stepped back. That makes no sense. I'm not a Moreau by blood. Aren't you? Romero murmured. The question stopped her cold. But before she could speak again, a sudden rumble shook the side entrance door. Not a knock this time, a push, slow, heavy, deliberate. Luca raised a hand, signaling the guard to fall back. "Nia," he murmured without looking at her. "Go upstairs." "No," she said, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. "I'm not leaving you." He turned his head slightly, eyes locking with hers in the dim light. "Please." It wasn't a command, it wasn't even a warning, it was fear, fear for her, but she stepped closer, not away. "If this is about me," she whispered, "I deserve to know." His chest rose sharply. He nodded once. Barely. Romero stepped forward, cane tapping lightly. "Let her stay. The door opened for her, not for you." Nia froze. Luca turned on Romero like a triggered weapon. "What did you just say?" Romero's smirk sharpened. "Only blood opens that door." Before Luca could argue, the door handle began to turn. The room fell silent. The guard aimed his weapon. Luca moved in front of Nia again. Romero did not move at all. He watched with unsettling calm. The handle clicked fully, and very slowly. The door creaked open, just an inch. Enough for a draft of cold air to rush forward, carrying a scent Nia couldn't place. Old wood, rain-soaked earth, and something else. Something familiar. Then a voice, a whisper, soft, female, echoing as though spoken from a long corridor. "Nia." Her heart slammed against her ribs. The guard cursed under his breath. Luca froze like a man struck by lightning. Romero's eyes widened, not in shock, but in triumph. "Well," he breathed, "that answers that question." The voice came again, clearer this time. "Nia, come." The door opened another inch. Luca grabbed her hand immediately. "You're not going anywhere." But Nia's knees weakened, not out of fear, but recognition, not memory. Recognition, something in that voice, something in the way it shaped her name, stirred a place inside her she didn't even know was locked. "Luca," she whispered shakily, I know that voice." His grip tightened almost painfully. "Nia? You can't." But she couldn't pull her gaze from the door, because the impossible was no longer impossible. It was speaking, calling her name, and a soft silhouette appeared in the gap of the doorway, small, feminine, motionless. "Nia. It's time." The door swung wider, and everything she thought she knew about herself began to unravel. The silhouette in the doorway didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't retreat. It stood perfectly still, framed by the faint moonlight slipping in from behind, like a ghost caught between coming and going. Nia's breath thinned into a shallow tremble. The voice, soft, familiar, impossible, floated through the open crack again. "Nia, you've grown." Her knees nearly buckled. Luca grabbed her waist, steadying her before she collapsed. "You're not going to her," he murmured, low and fierce. "There's no world where I let you walk toward that door." But Nia couldn't look away. The silhouette, the shape of the chin, the slope of the shoulders, the faint feminine outline. It was as if she recognized a stranger she had never met. "Luca," Nia whispered. "Why does she sound like—" "Don't," he said sharply. "Don't give her power by naming it." Romero stepped to the side, leaning his cane gently against the wall. He was no longer smirking. He was studying, calculating, waiting. "I knew it," he murmured. "She's here for the girl." Nia's chest tightened. "The girl? I'm not—" But Romero cut her off with a quiet, eerie certainty. "You were never a coincidence." Before she could ask what that meant, the figure in the doorway lifted a hand. Slowly, trembling slightly, as though the movement cost her, the faint outline of fingers appeared, long, delicate. "Nia, come." The guard raised his weapon. "Step back or I shoot." The silhouette did not react, but Luca did. "Lower it," he commanded sharply. "If you fire at that door, you'll hit something we don't understand yet." The guard hesitated, then lowered his weapon just an inch. Romero chuckled bitterly. "You always were your father's son, cautious when you should be terrified." Luca ignored him. "Nia," he said softly, "listen to me. That voice, whatever it is, it's manipulating your instincts, You feel connected because it wants you to feel connected. But Nia shook her head slowly. No, Luca, this isn't fear. This is recognition. He flinched like she had struck him. Nia, don't say that. Don't believe it. She took a step closer to him, lowering her voice until only he could hear. When she says my name, it feels like something inside me is waking up. His eyes softened, then darkened with something close to dread. Nia, he whispered, you are my wife. You belong here with me, not with whatever is on the other side of that door. Her heart twisted. She wanted to believe that. She wanted to stay safely behind Luca, where his steady presence shielded her. But the voice, her name. The sound burrowed deep inside her, stirring a warmth and ache she didn't understand. The silhouette shifted, just a tilt of the head, but Nia felt it like a pull inside her chest. Nia! Luca grabbed her arm. Look at me. She forced herself to turn. His eyes, dark, intense, unwavering, held her as though trying to anchor her soul to him. You are not going to that door, he said, in a low, steady tone. I don't care who she claims to be. Nia swallowed. Luca, what if she's related to me? His jaw clenched. What if she's not? Romero's voice slid through the tension like a blade. Let her choose, Luca. Nia looked at him sharply. What do you mean, choose? Romero gestured toward the open door with 2 fingers. Your name was called, not Luca's, not mine, not anyone else's, just yours. He paused. That means the message is for you alone. Luca stepped between them, furious. You knew this was going to happen. Romero smiled without warmth. I suspected. There's a difference. Luca's voice deepened. What do you want? For her to walk into a trap? Romero's eyes flicked to Nia, heavy with meaning. If it's a trap, it was set before she was born. The room fell silent. Even the shadows seemed to lean in. Nia stared at the silhouette again. It hadn't moved since lifting its hand, as if waiting for her decision. Nia? Luca's hand cupped her cheek. His voice broke slightly, just enough for her to hear it. You're mine. I won't lose you. Her heart jerked painfully, but the voice at the door called again. Nia? It's time. Lightning cracked somewhere outside. For the first time, the silhouette leaned forward. Just a breath, just enough for Nia to see eyes, dark eyes, reflective, human, alive. Nia staggered back, the letter slipping from her fingers. Luca grabbed her. What did you see? He demanded. But her lips trembled with the truth. It wasn't a ghost, she whispered. Romero's expression sharpened instantly. Then who? Nia swallowed hard. Tears gathered behind her eyes. Her eyes. A breath. A tremor. They looked like mine. Luca stiffened, every muscle freezing. Romero exhaled in triumph. I told you, he murmured. She's come for her blood. The silhouette took one step across the threshold, and Nia's world fractured into 2 truths, who she was and who she was always meant to be. The silhouette didn't fully step inside. Just 1 foot crossed the threshold, deliberate, steady, claiming space that should have remained forbidden. That single step changed the air. It thickened, weighted, heavy enough to press on Nia's ribs. Nia? The voice drifted into the foyer again, softer this time. Don't be afraid. Luca stepped forward immediately, placing himself between Nia and the door. She is afraid, he said through clenched teeth, and you're the reason. The silhouette paused, and then, to everyone's shock, she stepped back, not retreating, not fleeing, just waiting, as though she respected the boundary Luca drew. Romero's eyes narrowed. Interesting, he murmured. She's not challenging him. Nia felt something twist inside her chest, a tension she didn't understand. Fear? Recognition? Pain? She wasn't sure. Luca. She touched his arm softly. Let me see her face. No. It came out fast, sharp, instinctive. Absolutely not. Then how will we know who she is? Nia whispered. He turned toward her, shadows softening the edges of his face. "We already know who she wants you to believe she is," Romero sighed dramatically. "Let the girl look, Luca. Hiding the truth won't stop it," Luca snapped. "Stay out of this." But Romero smiled faintly. "You forget. She came to the girl, not to you." Nia felt the truth of that, and it terrified her. Step by slow step, she moved closer to Luca's side. The silhouette shifted again, not threatening, almost hopeful. That was what unnerved her most. "Why does she feel familiar?" Nia whispered. Luca took her hand instantly. "Nia, familiarity can be manufactured. Manipulated," Romero spoke before Luca could continue. "A voice cannot be faked that precisely." Luca shot him a death glare. Unless that's exactly what they want her to believe. The tension between the two men crackled like static. Then, something shifted. The silhouette slowly raised her hand again. This time, she wasn't beckoning Nia. She was showing something. A small object held between two fingers, thin, gleaming, catching the dim light. "What is that?" Nia whispered. The guard squinted. "A necklace? No, a chain, old." Romero's expression tightened. "That's not just any chain." Luca moved forward half a step. "Romero, talk." Romero exhaled slowly. That chain was worn by Luca's mother the day she went missing. Nia's blood ran cold. Luca's voice dropped an octave. "You're sure?" "Positive." Romero paused. "I found the matching half among your father's things." The silhouette lowered the chain gently, letting it dangle from her fingers. It swung slightly, steady, rhythmic, like a pendulum marking time. Nia stepped closer before she could stop herself. "Nia!" Luca grabbed her wrist. "You don't go near that." "I have to know," she whispered. "What if this is the only way to get answers?" Luca's voice cracked. "I don't want answers if they cost you." Her breath caught. He had never sounded afraid before, not like this, not for himself, for her. Before she could respond, the silhouette took another careful step back, almost as if she understood the danger her presence caused and didn't want to frighten Nia further. "Why is she retreating?" Nia whispered. Romero leaned in slightly. "She's showing obedience, protection." "Protection from what?" Nia asked. Romero's gaze slid toward Luca. "From the family war she was caught in, from the person who erased her." Luca's jaw flexed hard enough to crack. "This is exactly why I didn't want you involved." Nia turned to him, voice trembling. "Luca, tell me the truth. Was your mother murdered?" His eyes flickered. Romero answered for him. "No body was found, no ransom note, no trace. She vanished, just like the other women, linked to the Moreau line." "Other women?" Nia whispered. Romero nodded slowly. 3 disappearances, 1 every generation, each woman sharing the same features, the same blood traits, the same fate. Nia felt her heartbeat thundering in her ears. And now, me. Romero smiled faintly. "I told you, you were never a coincidence." Luca grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You are not cursed. You are not chosen for some ritual. You are my wife." Nia's eyes burned. "But Luca, what if I was brought here because of her?" "If you were," he whispered fiercely, "then I will burn down every tradition in this family to keep you safe." Her breath hitched. The silhouette at the door slowly lowered her head, as if acknowledging Luca's words, as if she understood them, as if she wanted something from Nia, but didn't want to hurt her. Then, a second silhouette appeared behind the first, taller, broader, completely still. Nia froze. Romero inhaled sharply. "Oh, now that is unexpected." Luca tensed instantly. "Who the hell is that?" Romero's voice turned grave. "That is not her husband." The smaller silhouette on the threshold whispered again, trembling, "Nia, don't let him in." Before anyone could react, the taller silhouette grabbed the first. A stifled cry, a struggle, a sharp, violent yank, and both silhouettes disappeared into the darkness outside, As the door slammed shut with a thunderous crack, Nia screamed, and Luca caught her as she collapsed into him. The door's slam echoed through the foyer like thunder trapped inside the walls. Nia gasped and clutched Luca's shirt, her legs threatening to give way. Luca pulled her upright, his grip steady, fierce, unyielding, like he feared she might be dragged next. "Nia, look at me," he whispered urgently. But she couldn't. Her eyes stayed locked on the door. The silhouette of the woman, the one whose voice mirrored her own heartbeat, had been ripped away, snatched by someone stronger, darker, faster, a stranger, a predator. Romero was the first to move. He struck the floor with his cane, the sound sharp and precise. "Idiot boy," he muttered. "We should have opened that door earlier. We should have—" "Stop talking." Luca's voice cut through the panic, low and dangerous. "Just stop." The guard rushed toward the door. "Don't touch it," Luca barked. The guard froze mid-step. "Why?" Nia whispered. Luca's answer was soft and chilling. "Because whatever grabbed her might still be on the other side." The hallway went silent. Even the air felt afraid. Romero placed a hand over the door's wooden frame, tracing it gently, like someone reading a memory with their fingertips. "This isn't a kidnap," he said finally. Nia frowned. "What are you talking about?" Romero turned, eyes sharp as blades. "Someone didn't break in to take her." He paused. They waited for her. Nia's breath caught. Luca gripped her arm tighter. "No," he growled. "You're not feeding her that poison tonight." But Romero continued anyway. "That second silhouette, the tall one, he was expecting her. He knew she would come to the door. He knew she would call for Nia. And he took her the moment she hesitated." Nia shivered violently. Luca pulled her closer. "We need answers, not fear," he murmured into her hair. "I won't let them take you." She wished she believed that completely. She wished she could erase the sound of that woman's soft cry. Instead, she pulled away gently and stepped toward the door. Luca caught her wrist instantly. "No, I'm not opening it," she whispered. "I just need to see." He hesitated, then let her take 3 steps forward. The door's edges were smeared, not with blood, but with some dark residue, thick and gritty, like old ash. Nia touched it with the tip of her finger. Cold. Too cold. "What is this?" she whispered. Romero leaned in. "Burnt resin." A pause. "Used in certain rituals, old ones." Luca swore under his breath. Nia turned. "Rituals?" Romero nodded slowly. "Bindings, summonings, banishings, bloodline rites." Luca slammed his hand against the wall. "Stop it! You don't know what took her." "Oh, I do," Romero murmured. He stepped closer to Nia, lowering his voice. "That was not your reflection. That was not a ghost. That was not Luca's mother." Nia's heart dropped. Then who was she? Romero looked directly into her eyes. "She was looking for you," Luca snapped. "She was being hunted." Romero shook his head. "No, she was being retrieved." The word hit Nia like ice in her veins. "Retrieved," she whispered. "By who?" Romero tapped his cane twice. "The same people who orchestrated every disappearance in this family. The same people who brought you into this house. The same people who believe you are the key to restoring something we lost." Nia stepped back. "Me? Why me?" Romero's voice softened strangely. "Because you carry a face the Moreau line has been waiting for." Luca positioned himself between them. "You're done talking. She's not hearing another word from you." Nia grabbed Luca's arm. "Luca, I need to hear it." His eyes closed briefly, painfully, before he nodded. She turned back to Romero. "Tell me." Romero exhaled slowly. "The tall figure that took her? He belongs to a faction older than this family, older than Luca's father, older than the American branch of the Moreaus." He let the words hang. "They only come when the bloodline is fractured, or when something must be restored." "Restored?" Nia whispered. Romero nodded once. "And that woman, The one who called your name. She wasn't calling because she knew you." He paused. "She was calling because you were the only one who could hear her." Nia's chest tightened. "Why me?" she asked again. Romero leaned closer, voice barely audible. "Because you're the one they want next." Luca grabbed Nia and pulled her behind him. "No, she is not going anywhere with them." Romero arched a brow. "Then you'd better move quickly, nephew." "Why?" Luca growled. Romero pointed at the letter Nia had dropped on the floor. The parchment was no longer blank. Words, dark, inked, shifting, had appeared across the page like they'd been written by invisible hands. Nia stepped closer, heart pounding. The message read, "We have the first. We come for the last. The bloodline returns to its own." Nia's throat tightened. "Luca," she whispered, "what does that mean?" Luca stared at the words as the ink slowly sank into the page like a wound sealing shut. His voice broke. "It means," he swallowed hard, "it means they're coming back for you." Nia had never heard silence this heavy, not in Luca's arms, not in this house, not in her own heart. The message on the parchment still hovered in her vision, burned there like a brand she couldn't blink away. "We come for the last." Her. They were coming for her. Luca held her close, arms wrapped around her as though anchoring her to the floor, to the present, to him. His heartbeat pressed against her ear, strong and uneven, telling her everything his mouth refused to say. "Nia," he breathed, "I'm getting you out of this house." Her fingers tightened around his shirt. She didn't want to leave him. She didn't want to stay. She didn't know what staying meant, and she didn't know what leaving would cost. Romero watched them quietly, leaning on his cane, eyes unreadable. "You won't get far," he said softly. "Not if they've already marked her." Luca shot him a glare that could have cut stone. "I don't care who they are," Luca growled. "I'll tear the world apart before I let them touch her again." Romero lifted a brow. "Your father once said something similar. It didn't save your mother." Nia flinched. That piece of truth cut deeper than any threat. Luca's jaw tightened in pain and fury. "Don't compare me to him," Luca whispered. Romero shrugged. "History repeats itself when the bloodline demands it." Nia stepped forward, placing her hand gently over Luca's heart. "Stop," she whispered. She wasn't talking to Romero. She was talking to Luca. He looked down at her with a mixture of fear, love, and something rawer, something she had never seen in him until tonight. "You can't protect me from everything," she whispered. "I can protect you from them," he said fiercely. "No," she murmured. "You can't. Not if this is something bigger, older, something that wants me for reasons I don't understand yet." "I don't need to understand it," he said. "I just need to keep you alive." Her throat tightened. "And what if the only way to stay alive is to stop running?" That single question shattered him. She saw it in the way his eyes widened, in the way his breath hitched, in the way he reached for her like a drowning man clinging to shore. "Nia," "Don't say that," Luca whispered. "They'll take you from me." She cupped his face in both hands. "No." A steady exhale. "They'll take me if we do nothing." Romero tapped his cane once. "She's right," he said softly. "The more you hide her, the louder the bloodline calls." Luca ignored him completely. Instead, he wrapped his arms around Nia's waist and pulled her against him. "Look at me," he said. She did. His forehead rested against hers, breath warm and unsteady. "I can handle every enemy I've ever made," he whispered, "but not losing you, not again." Her heart stumbled. Again? She opened her mouth to ask. But the question died when Luca kissed her. Not softly, not gently, desperately, as though he needed her lips to remind him she was still here, still breathing, still his. Her fingers tangled in his hair, his hand slid to her back, pulling her closer, grounding her in a world that suddenly felt too fragile to touch. When he finally pulled away, his voice broke. "I don't want this to be our last night." "It won't be," Nia whispered. "I'm not leaving you." He swallowed hard. But the fear in his eyes didn't fade. Romero stepped forward. "You have one night," he said. "They won't strike again until dawn. Bloodline rituals follow old rules." Luca stiffened. "Then we leave before sunrise." Romero tilted his head. "And go where? Their reach is older than the borders on any map." Luca's jaw flexed, but he didn't back down. "I'll find a place they can't touch," Romero sighed. "You can try, but remember, she isn't being hunted, she's being summoned." Nia's heartbeat faltered. Summoned, called, claimed. By who? By what? Luca cupped her face again. "Nia, together or not at all? Do you hear me?" She nodded, but the truth lingered heavy between them. She didn't know if staying with him would keep her safe or endanger them both. Romero walked toward the door and opened it a crack, letting the cold night air spill in. "You have until dawn," he said quietly. "And then the real hunt begins." Luca pulled Nia into his arms one more time, pressing a kiss to the top of her head, voice trembling. "I'll fight them." Another kiss. "I'll protect you." A final whisper. "I won't lose you." And yet, Nia couldn't shake the echo of the woman's voice, that strange, impossible familiarity, the way her name had been spoken with tears in it. As Luca led her away from the foyer, Nia looked back one last time. The door was still open. Cold wind curled through the gap, carrying a single, whisper-soft word. "Nia." She shivered, because she didn't know who she would be when she answered the call, or what she would become when part 2 began.